time. I'll just begin to, and I think I'll just drop some of the links to some people on my network to begin to also join it, because I didn't get a notification. I didn't see a notification. That's what some people might be experiencing too. All right. So the event has been tagged accelerating African inclusion in big tech, and for someone who is a Nigerian, leading Blacks in Technology, Abuja, that's the capital city of Africa's largest economy, as we like to proudly say. Um, there's a lot happening in the space, especially in tech, with a lot of persons, jumping in. And we've never had a time in Nigerian history where, or should I just say in African history, where we have so many persons really becoming enthusiastic in technology that we've ever had. The number of startups are simply just amazing. Like every single year, from fintech to edtech to basically different areas of technology, we are seeing a lot of persons entering the space. And it has also increased the number of interest also about technology on the continent, because we are seeing more and more VCs, being ready to actually invest in what's happening, because they've seen result over time. And this is also a continent where people are also consuming technology services more and more and more and more and more. And here is like a cliche for everybody who's jumping into tech is, everybody wants to beat, everybody wants to just advance their career and then find a way to just jump out of Africa. And we've seen a lot of that. Last year I joined an organization where we're training developers in Web3, myself included too. And I think towards the end of the year, about two persons relocated from Nigeria. I think one went to Berlin, and one relocated to Spain, one to work with Amazon. And the number of persons just entering tech, the sheer amount is very enormous. And being a community, or being a community that's positioned in that intersection between people who are very interested in technology and also what's happening in the space, also makes us to ask a lot of questions about inclusion. How do people actually position themselves to enjoy from the global store of opportunity? Because it's always like there's this notion about Africa always being the continent that we always catch up when the world has already passed a particular phase. So it's like the world is not excited about something while we are just like 10 years behind. It's like this is just when we got into everybody just become excited now, and then everybody's like, you guys are just excited about something that we've already left behind. But more recently, we are seeing more persons becoming excited more and more about that. So I'll just begin to introduce our speakers today. Really amazing people. I'm Greenlee, Malina Love, and Dennis Schultz. And I'll just do me the honors to try as I can to do the introductions, and then of course they would actually describe themselves better in person. So yeah. So going to begin from Malina. Really, I came across your profile, and she's actually been sharing a lot on our work chat, and I've been like, wow, she's really doing a lot concerning her community. So anytime I look at the community, that really inspires me as someone who's also leading community. It's always Malina as a community. Thank you for all you do. So my introduction might not be the best of it, so I'll just try. So Malina holds a bachelor's degree in management information systems. She's also currently involved in the product universe as a certified Scrum Master. A journey into product and project has had I work with different organizations as both as a software and application project coordinator. She has worked as a senior IT project coordinator, and she's worked as a technical project management consultant, software product project manager, etc. It seems to me that looking at her profile, most of her focus in the product and project world has mostly been focused on autonomous vehicles, AI-driven solutions, and edtech solutions. So probably should actually talk more about that. On the community aspect, she's currently the chapter president of BIT Twin Cities. And thank you very much, Malina, for joining us here. And also for those who are attending in the comment section, I don't know if they can also comment. I would love to for us to just drop where you are joining in from. Then to Dennis Schultz. Dennis Schultz, who's AB holds a bachelor's in technology education from Virginia State University, and also the certificate in IP law and policy from the University of Pennsylvania. He has a range of experience in precision selling, strategic selling, conceptual selling, etc. His journey has been a mix of both enterprise, corporate and entrepreneurial worlds. So he has actually had a taste of different worlds, both working for big organizations and actually building stuff. And from companies like Samsung, Lenovo, Dell, Gartner, Dropbox, Symantec, Interactive Tel, and HP. Currently, he is BIT's executive director and member of the board. Yeah, so that's mostly it. But then that's just the tip of the icing. Wait until they introduce themselves. So Greg Greenlee is has an Associate of Arts and Science degree in computer engineering from Cincinnati State University. He has worked as a network technician, service delivery and site op manager, and also as a DevOps engineer. Currently, he's a principal DevOps engineer at Insight. And he's really amazing that he founded BIT. So a lot of what we do today in this community has been spearheaded by what both Greg and what Dennis is doing for and in the community. Thank you so much. So without further ado, I'll just begin with Greg to just tell us a bit about yourself and what you do. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Greg Greenlee. I am the founder of the Blacks in Technology organization. So I work as a principal DevOps engineer. So what that entails really is building out infrastructure in the cloud, helping development teams work with operations teams in order to deploy software in an efficient and fast way so that it builds or provides value to the business. So I've been doing that for the past, I want to say 5 or 6 years. Yeah, so that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I've been in IT for about 20 something years. Started out on the help desk, a lot of self-studying. I did go back to school to get a degree in computer network engineering. Along the ways, when I started Blacks in Technology, which is now grown to be a global organization. I reside in Cincinnati, Ohio. Got 3 kids, wife. Life is good.
All right, good. Thank you very much for just giving an overview and a summary. I like the last part. Life's good. All right. Dennis, please just do us the honors of introducing yourself better.
Sure. So thank you for having me. I'm Dennis Schultz, as Audubon mentioned. I am the executive director of the Blacks in Technology Foundation. I started out in the organization as a chapter, first as a member, then as a chapter president for New York City before moving to the leadership role. My personal professional journey, like Greg, I started off doing customer service, help desk support for American Power Conversion, APC. If you know any like surge protectors and battery backups, UPS systems, that's what I did. So I was in IT, but kinda. But since then, I ended up moving into with Viction into sales roles for a number of large companies. I worked for Samsung and Dell. I worked for Lenovo and Dropbox and HPE. I'm currently at Microsoft, but all of my roles have primarily been customer facing, doing business development and or sales, as well as my side businesses, which I've had many, but most recently I'm working on an app for photography called Paparazzi, as well as I do freelance web development. So web development and hosting is another business I have, trying to develop those multiple streams of income. So that's a little bit about me.
Wow, wow, wow. Really, really, really interesting, Dennis. Thank you so much. Both having experience in enterprise and also building stuff yourself. I think we'd actually come to that when Dennis, you play those guitars. Someone is asking.
Uh, that's a relative term. I can hold a guitar and I can play a couple of chords, but no, I would say if somebody asked me if I was a guitar player, I'd say no. I still have a lot of practice to do.
I've also wanted to ask too, whether you lead a band.
No, I'm more of a DJ. I got turntables back there too. Get me on those. We can talk about that.
All right. Thank you so much, Dennis. And okay, over to you, Malina. Do us the honors of you introducing yourself. Thank you.
I was trying to play it in my head how I was gonna talk about my journey. It's always a struggle for me. But yeah, thank you. But thanks for having me. You're awesome as well. I mean, I think all-star team, everyone is so amazing here. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee, before I migrated up north, where there's not that many black people in the cold winter, understandably. But it's really interesting. I chose my career literally 2 months before I enrolled in my university. I knew I didn't want to spend the rest of my life studying medicine or in school, and I knew I wanted to be rich because I grew up in poverty. So I was like, what's the career that can make me rich? That was business. And I like where technology was going, and I wanted to be a part of that. So doing my research, I discovered management information system, and my local university had it. And I just pretty much planned my career from that, got involved, had about over 5+ internships before graduating, working full time in project management, which I did for 6 years. The complete opposite of the real reason why I went to school to own a business. But I did project management and for 6 years now across many industries, including supply chain, manufacturing, retail, education, med tech, all of that in that area. And last year was my first time going, well, we'll say well, necessarily not my first time, but it was that real moment for me to go into the entrepreneurship route, the startup route. And so I was able to launch an ed tech company called Pipe Dream Academy, which is definitely in the early stages, but an ed tech company leveraging artificial intelligence for those exploring career pathways in technology. So a varied wide range of skill set from an entrepreneur to a project manager in software development, and a cool industry I'm in too, autonomous vehicles. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, indeed. Really, really, really awesome. And I actually like the the brutal honesty, you actually wanted to go into something that would actually, make you money. I feel sometimes we actually get so accustomed with this cliche, I really want to change the world. Why did you go into this field? Yeah, like I was very passionate. I just wanted to make money. All right. Thank you once more so much. So I'll just begin to go into, I have some questions here to ask. And from my own end, I have a degree in electrical and electronics engineering, but it has mostly been a journey of exploring, encountering, learning, and knowing how to do things better. Because coming from the traditional Nigerian home, it's mostly it's either you're studying medicine, studying engineering, or you're just studying law. But so I just started my journey in engineering. But going to engineering, I just began to discover my path. And just like after graduating from university, in the university, I was also very engrossed in community. I managed Google Students community on campus, and also try to start other smaller communities too, mostly about helping students to transition into technology, because most of them were very passionate, very interested, but they didn't really know how to get into technology. The funny part of it is I joined the BIT my last year in the university, and it was through my network as a Google student lead. That was how I got to know about BIT. So from there, finishing school, the first company I joined also was mostly about managing community. It wasn't even about electrical engineering. That was what I studied, but I also found other things that were interesting. And also my journey has been mostly looking into product and projects too, because from handling community, I was also handling developers, and the company I was working with began to morph into, handling projects and products for clients. And I was like the guy who would be able to communicate to the UI UX designers, the front end, the back end guy, the DevOps guys, and just put everything together. So that's just been my journey. It has mostly been centered around community, and I feel like that's what some people don't really understand, that it also really helps this in career-wise community. So the question today is mostly about inclusion and getting a lot of persons in the African space involved. And recently, I must say, it has really become exciting for most of us, because we are seeing more people becoming interested in technology with hubs. Like literally, I just moved to Abuja about 3 months ago, and I recall a guy around me was like that he's about to finish his service here, because in Nigeria we have something called a National Youth Service Corps. So after you have done with your university, you serve 1 year, then you are sent to another part of the country. Because one thing you must know about Nigeria is like it is a very diverse country. We have about 500 languages in Nigeria alone. So the only thing that brings us together as a bond is just English, because a lot of we speak English language. So the country started a program, 1 year you'll be sent to another part of the country so they can learn their culture. Everybody just gets scattered. So this guy was just telling me, my 1 year is about to finish and I don't have a job. I don't know what to do. And I was like, I just told him, this is playfully, just pick up something in technology. He was asking me questions. I was sending resources on front end development, started learning front end. In a matter of like 3 months, he landed his first job as a junior. And that's just to show you what technology can, the incredible power it has. So about inclusion, what is inclusion from your own standpoint? So I would like to begin with Greg. What is inclusion? Because like there's just so much in the media about inclusion here, with female inclusion, Black inclusion, Asian inclusion, multicultural inclusion, ethnic inclusion. What is inclusion from your standpoint? Hello, Greg. Are you?
Looks like Greg may be having some audio issues with connectivity. I said I'll jump in, and then Greg, you can follow if you have some additions. But basically, from my perspective, companies, when they discuss inclusion, they're thinking about diversity as a whole. So they think about women, they think about neurodiversity, people with like autism and other types of mental disabilities, as well as physical disabilities, maybe blind, deaf, or physically disabled. So they lump a lot of things into inclusion and making sure that everyone has a say in their career and in the runnings of the organization. Where I challenge inclusion is really when it comes to what are you doing for specific groups? Because it's easy to kind of cast a wide umbrella and say, hey, we've got plenty of women, or we have an accessibility program, and these things are great, and it makes them feel better. But the reason that Blacks in Technology exists is to focus exclusively on people of African descent. So right now, we represent about 3% of the technology industry in IT professions, right? So if you look at, the United States, for example, the population of the United States is about 13% African or African American. And there's a disparity in that group where we can focus specifically on Black people and say, we want to help Black folks. And to me, that's where the inclusion should be. We want to include more Black people and be intentional about including more Black people into these types of conversations. Another point to mention is that a lot of companies will have a diversity and inclusion policy or statement, but there's no accountability to adhere to it. So, another part that I see Blacks Technology playing a role in is really advancing the narrative that we should be discussing the specifics of what inclusion means and specifically what diversity means to a specific company. And, just having those conversations, a lot of times this is an afterthought and not thought about. And as a result, we get to be 3%. So by being intentional and, very vocal and visible, we get to change the narrative on that. Greg, I don't know if you were having audio issues earlier, but the question was, what do you feel about or how do you view inclusion?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there's a saying that I heard someone else say. I'm not going to take credit. That diversity is being asked to the dance, and then inclusion is actually being asked to dance, right? And so for me, there's a thing that happens in companies where companies may hire Black people, talented Black people, but then once they get into the actual company,
It was getting good. I was into
Looks
it
like
like
looks like you just broke connection at some point.
I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm waiting for the next day. I'm like, oh.
right there. Come back to the next episode.
Like just in the groove of the moment.
I know that.
All right, Malina, I think you just take on the baton while
I was pretty much the same thing as Greg, but a different phrase. I liked it this time last year. I remember this woman, she said this phrase. I always like to say that we want our seat at the table. And I like when Tyler Perry said, you guys take first seat at the table, I built my own, right? But then she took it one step further where she said, it's one thing to have a seat at the table, but to act and have influence at the table means so much more. And I'm quite sure, like Dennis and Greg are saying, a new term that comes in place called performative. A lot of companies, they hire our community to say we're diverse. I'm like, just having people at the table don't make you diverse when I cannot lead in my own right. And especially even with me and my own experiences as a Black woman, person of color, woman, when I'm like, yeah, I'm leading, my title says I'm leading, but you're not letting me get the word out. I'm not making decisions. I'm here as a puppet. And that's just being completely honest and 100. Like, if we're going to be inclusive, we have to have that trust and be able to lead and to make the difference in that area. And so when I think of inclusion, it's like your voice carry weight, you matter. We're in this together, not because I'm just allowing it to happen. It's that we're accepting, you appreciate it, we need you. And we can get to the point where it doesn't matter that I'm Black as a woman. You're hiring me because of my skill set and I'm here to lead into that area. But right now we're too busy focused on my skin color in an area. And that's why I like where Dennis says when we talk about we're a community and that we as Blacks in tech is that, well, if they're not going to do it, we're going to do it. We're going to build it. We're going to make sure that you're getting your voice heard. We're going to give you that platform. We're going to amplify your mission and your voice so that we're creating that opportunity for you so that you can pay it forward.
And Greg, just getting good. I wanted to just get back to Greg because I wanted to finish hearing his statement.
Yeah, exactly.
So before you cut off, Greg.
Being asked to the dance, inclusion is being asked to dance.
Yeah. Oftentimes you see these companies, they'll hire Black people, and then once we're in the door, that's kind of it. We don't get the same type of mentorship. We don't get the same type of of treatment. Retention is low. We get inside, and then we find out that there's still a lot of inappropriate behavior that's happening, and on top of that, then we're not even getting hired. Once we're inside, we're not even getting those executive jobs. We're not getting leadership jobs as well. So it's one thing to say, hey, yeah, I'll hire you, but then where are you going to help us get to once we get inside your company? Are you just going to leave us, whatever, or are you going to provide us with the tools necessary for us to move up the chain, right, and to start making decisions at a higher level, even from a hiring decision, right? From now, I work also as a team lead, and I also have influence on who gets hired on our team. So I'm doing interviews and things like that. So my opinions on people's tech skills, personable skills, things like that are now valued to where I can say, yay, this person is a good hire, or hey, they lack these certain skills, but their personality lends to them being able to pick up on things really, really well. And I think they'll do fine in these roles, right? So are we going to be in those roles and even higher than that, become managers, become executives? So inclusion to me doesn't mean just hiring at all. That's just getting asked to the dance. We have to be asked to actually dance, right?
I'll kind of expand on that a little bit just so I can get this in because I heard in a conference that someone said that plantations were diverse. So slave plantations were diverse, but they weren't inclusive. Same thing goes for colonized countries or apartheid states. I mean, technically they're diverse, but they're not inclusive. So I just wanted to make that analogy.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Totally agree. So I just wanted to ask this question, and I think I'll just treat to Greg and then Malina and Dennis can also attack it too. First of all, do you think that number one, it's like 2-in-1 question. Do you think first of all that the conversations about inclusion is overemphasized? That's one. Or two, is it a thing about a shortage of skill? For instance, let's say we have a population of, let's say, 5:2 who are skilled. Do you think that has been one of the factors really affecting inclusion, or it's just a thing with selectivity, so to say, or it has been a thing with a particular set of people not really having the kind of pool of talent that would actually make inclusion possible? What do you really think? Has that been the case, or it has always been mostly about just selectivity and about racial bias?
I want to say this. I listen to a lot of tech podcasts. Most of the tech podcasts that I listen to are hosted by white men. And every time I hear their backstory, that further lets me know that a lot of what's happening is just selectivity. It's racial bias. And the reason why I say that is because their backgrounds, I'm not saying they're always, but a lot of times their backgrounds go like this. Oh, yeah, so I know so-and-so was running the business and he didn't have anyone to administer his network. I didn't know anything about networks, but he hired me anyhow, right? We're not giving that leeway. It's sometimes we have to come into the door with this entire prerequisite knowledge base that to have before we're even looked at. So I think a lot of it is racial bias. The big community itself is very large. We're global. So for me, there's no excuse for companies to not be able to find talent. We have HBCUs, we have communities like BIT, we have other organizations that have the same mission and vision as BIT. And early on, I would say in the early 2000s, you didn't see this. But now with everything that's happening in the world, the focus is on organizations such as ours. And so companies need to be intentional about finding talent. So don't tell me you can't go to LinkedIn and go to our LinkedIn group and see over 7,000 LinkedIn group members. And I'm not saying everybody there is wanting to get hired, but I'm saying that there's opportunity there to hire people. Don't tell me you can't find people when we are doing career fairs every once a month on a Friday, where hundreds and hundreds of people are signing up. You can't tell me that when I know that we have a reach that's global now, that you can't find talent. And I know for sure that it's not a shortage of skills. And even if there was some shortage of skills, we're helping with that. So if you really are intentional, then you would get into bed with us to find that talent and to say, hey, I see you have all these programs coming up. How can we tap into people who are graduating or who are obtaining these Udacity nano degrees in UI UX or DevOps engineering? How can we tap into that? So if these companies are not willing to do that, then they can't sit there and scream that they can't find talent.
Yeah, true. I totally agree too. So just to ask, just to expand on the question a bit on the end of Dennis, considering the multiple phases of inclusion and conversations about inclusion, what is like the BIT community? Because I'm sure if we actually look at the conversations about inclusion, I think it's not just a thing about just talking about it, but actually doing practical, just taking actions about it to actually solve the problems of inclusion. So I would like both Dennis and also Malina to actually answer the questions of what are those things that we need to do. I know that like BIT is doing a lot of things, and I would also like Dennis to mention what BIT is doing, and then Malina can also mention what is being done to encourage inclusion. And for someone like me and other communities who are like mushrooming across the African continent, what can we also do? Because as I said before, we have a lot of mushrooming startups on the continent, and because this, since it's a different case where you are like in an all-white workspace, and then you're trying to find more Black persons in the space, and then on the African continent it's a bit different, because in this case now we have people of color actually starting businesses that are becoming unicorns and the rest. So in this case now, sometimes the conversations about inclusion now changes from race and becomes ethnic. And it also changes from race and becomes more of a thing about genders. We're not talking more about how do we get women involved, because of course everybody's Black. So how do we also get women involved? So there's always something that every group will always want to converse about, something that unifies them together. So like what is BIT doing, or what are the actionable steps that everybody can take back to their separate communities and say, okay, you know what, I have a BIT chapter here, and then this and this and these are the things that we can do to encourage inclusion, both at a local community level and also at a global level. And this is what BIT is helping us do, and this is what we're also doing as a community. So I'd love to talk about it from the standpoint of community generally, and also I'd love Malina to also talk a bit from looking at gender to how women especially too can also really get included.
Hey, Audubon, real quick, because I have to jump off here. I'm sorry. I'm at my son's swim meet and it's about to start. So let me just say this and leave everyone with this. I did not start or found Blacks in Technology in order to solve the diversity problem, right? I think that should be known. I did not start Blacks in Technology to serve I did not start it in order to solve this diversity issue. I started it to build community, because I felt for myself, I saw these communities that did not have Black people included, all these tech publications, all these different conferences, things like that. And I felt community as a collective is going to be our strongest bet against what's happening as far as being excluded. So for me, it was a thing of what can we do for ourselves? How can we progress one another? How can we build one another's knowledge? And I felt that the best way to do that is to build this community so that then we can exchange knowledge with one another, so that we can, have these conversations, so that we can learn how to navigate, this industry, so that we can network and start to build with one another. Because at the end of the day, once we start doing that, we start controlling our own narrative, we start doing things on our own, then we don't have to just go and try to knock on the door of big tech to try to get in. We can create our own, we can build our own, we can do our own thing. So I just kind of want to leave it off on that because, again, Blacks in Technology is not here to solve any one company or a dozen companies' diversity problem. We want to make sure that we are ready for this this revolution, which is this tech revolution that's been happening for the past couple of decades, that we have the requisite skills necessary to go out there and compete in the job market or compete in the entrepreneurial market. And we don't have to rely on anyone else in order for us to excel in this industry. And with that, I do have to go. I thank you, Audubon, for having me. I wish I didn't have to jump off so early, but my son is about to start swimming.
Right.
So
good luck.
I take care, everyone. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you
Take care.
much. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Wow. Really said so much, and I think very interesting point. Very interesting point. So I'd just like Dennis to still just buttress on the points that have been raised by Greg, and also Malina can also step on the podium too.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about some practical things that Blacks in Technology is doing to, help help people, be I guess, use their own personal resources in order to help solve the problem. So one of the things is the Slack community that we have. So through Slack, and that is our primary means of communication through our community, there is ways for you to connect with other people for professional networking, informal mentorship opportunities, and otherwise just feeling like you're not isolated, no matter where you are in your career. You could be early in your career or not even in tech yet, but aspiring to be, and find someone who can help you, answer questions that you may have about a specific role or a specific problem that you're trying to solve, or even finding a job. So there's a number of ways that you can engage in the Slack community. So that's probably the first thing. And that's free to join. You just sign up. Another thing is the actual membership for Blacks in Technology is also free. And each chapter is going to be able to provide local resources depending on where you're located. So if you don't have a Blacks in Technology chapter near you, you can join at large and still receive member benefits. There are training resources and upskilling resources. We try to provide scholarships and grants and discounts to make it easier for you to get the skills that you need in order to be competitive in the job market. And lastly, I'll say is we coordinate resources from other companies in order to redirect to our members. So whether that be through career fairs that Greg mentioned. So we have these reoccurring career fairs where companies can find diverse talent. So if you're looking for, I think somebody mentioned an entry-level role, there's companies that do have entry-level roles and internships and apprenticeship programs, ways for you to break into the industry without, having to just, apply everywhere. These companies are specific and intentional about looking for diverse talent. So I would say things that you can do practically: 1, engage in your local big chapter; 2, be active in the Slack community; and 3, participate in the virtual career fairs and events that we hold, like this one.
All right, Dennis. Thank you so much for that. So I think you've actually said a lot about about being part of community, and also what BIT is actually doing by making resources available, and also building this community that's forming a network that every single person can actually plug into to build their careers. So I don't know if Melina also wants to add to that before I add the next question.
I mean, you guys, I have to go first on the next question because you guys keep taking all the good stuff. I was gonna say, I guess I could talk about my practical experience. I guess the one thing I add on that is like you kept hearing Dennis say free, free, free and available to you. And like a once great man once said, my brother from Wakanda, he said, it's a good day to be black. Because literally there's a lot of resources here, but you have to put in the work too, and
Yes.
that's important. It's a two-way street, and definitely agree what Greg said. I call it BS. These companies just finding excuses, and even when you get the job, they find even more excuses of why they say, "See, we should never hire that person." But on the second end of the street, which is why I like to call myself a rebel, is that knows is always a number games to me. And the whole time I'm building my experience, I'm leveraging my networks, and I'm very strategic in who I connect with, and I'm building my own portfolio. And case in point, AI. I knew that I wanted to get into artificial intelligence, and I couldn't get an entry level job to save my life, and I wasn't about to go to school. You had to drag me by my edges to do so. I wasn't going to do it. And I wasn't about to try to find entry level job to get into AI. So what did I do? One, I had opportunities available to me. I ended up starting my own AI company. I did my own courses. I tried to get someone a free scholarship through BIT. And I built my experience that up to where a job opportunity just fell out the sky and say, hey, you're exactly what we need. And sometimes you have to do that. Like you cannot wait for someone to give you the opportunity. You have to open up that door, build that door yourself, and take it. And that's true for all of my every job that I had, it came from networking. Even my first internship, someone said, I know that this is what you're passionate about. Hey, check it out. I didn't learn about the job to the first day. I'm like, oh, so this is what the company is, but I'm appreciative of it. So you have to put a network.
Yeah, totally agree. And you were already chewing into the next question I wanted to ask. Like what you just answered, is actually partly what I wanted to ask next. And I think you are very correct because I recall in my last year in the university when I was speaking with friends, they are like, just apply for this job. And I was like, I'm more of about positioning for jobs because I feel you can actually position yourself to become very useful that jobs will actually come seeking for you. And I think that that's like this in part of what you also talked about. So
Yeah.
the next question I wanted to like talk about is um for a second, being in Africa and understanding the fact that some people want to actually launch startups and businesses, from your personal experience, how are you able to we know of course that since from what Dennis said, BIT is helping with resources and opportunities and all that. So I just wanted to make you to like share it at least at a more personal level from going through your graduate program, then getting your first job, just plotting your career compass. What has been the lessons you've learned, and what do you think that people can also do too? Because we have people who want to go into maybe product, you have people who want to go into project, you have people who want to go into software, you have people who I think it's always about having like a 10-year plan. You have a vision of the apex of where you want to go to, and then you now like reverse engineer the process and break it down into bits, and then you now begin to tackle it one step at a time. So I just want you to share practically how you've built your career, how you've streamlined it, how you've understood, because I recently began to take certifications very seriously because you can actually claim you know something, but a lot of organizations actually just want to know the certifications you have. So how are you able to plot your career to understand, okay, these are the certifications I need, this is what to do about it? How are you just able to put everything together so that you are working, you're learning, you are building, you are growing, and how are you also able to leverage networks? Because I led a Google community on campus, and then there were people who would tell me, I just can't talk, I'm so shy, I can't just share what I'm doing. How do you guys do it? You are so bold about, and I'm like, I'm not really bold, but I feel actually know what's important, and I'm just trying to be audacious enough. So I won't say there's no tint of fear or feeling of not being enough or being adequate enough, but then it's just about trying to just be audacious and say, yeah, I just have to do it no matter what. So how have you been able to do that?
Yeah, see
Just
that, see that you just unpacked the big question. So I'm gonna try to see if I can shorten it down. There are a few things came to mind. I say one of the biggest lesson throughout my entire professional IT journey, and I said it to myself, I said the hardest pill for me to swallow was that I was the one sleeping on myself. And that was an honest conversation I had to have myself, like I was sleeping on myself. That I had all this potential, but I was seeking validation from other people who wouldn't give it to me when all I needed was to validate myself and go for it. The second of it is just start. I think last year was probably one of the best years for me because I always feel like I have a whole life of a struggle story. But it really took a woman to tell me, she's like, it's okay. You're not gonna figure out. You're not gonna know. Like you can have an idea, but sometimes you have to go with the flow and see where it goes. And I think COVID kind of gave a lot of people enough chance to just say, you know what, I'm not making goals this year. We'll see what happens. And sometimes that's what it takes. Like even if you don't know your path yet or where you want to take, it's just good to just go with the flow, see what out there, see where it takes you, and you start to understand it a little bit better. Because I tell you, like I was very strategic early on in my career. Like I did my research. I knew that if I wanted to be a business person, I need to major at this college. I needed to get all of these things happening and I need to graduate. I need to work and have that, which was farther from the truth. But being in that college, networking, being the president of an IT organization, going to a career fair where I was shut down for 5 years straight from this one company that told me I couldn't get an internship as a freshman because I needed more experience. So I went and got more experience. And next year they say, well, you need certifications. So I went and got certifications. And up until senior year, I still didn't get that job. But I got other jobs and
I think
experiences.
they were just pushing for excuses upon excuses.
I could I'm like really a freshman. And I'm gonna tell you, my first internship was with one of the top med tech companies, so with Medtronic. And all I did was went to the people and I say, look, I will work for free. And I did. They hired me for free too. And I said, I work for free. I just need something called experience. Would you be willing to give it to me? I got a good GPA. And that's exactly what they did. And I did it for a whole year. Now I have it on my experience. And that's another thing about community. A lot of people tend to forget that you don't necessarily need a paying tech job to get experience. You can get it through volunteer work. And so all of my entry level experience came from me building my own portfolio, that internships, and heck, even just the last 3 years, I took like nearly a 50% pay cut just to get free training sponsored by a company, just so I can quit and get that job that I wanted. But that was the sacrifices I was willing to make. I was willing to partner with this organization and say, I want to be an intern. I want to volunteer. Can I be in that position so that I can get in position to be in those roles? And I think that's what it's all about. Like you don't have it all planned out, because once you do, then everything starts to go wrong. So I just said, nope, we're not doing that again this year. But if you have an idea, just go for it and be open to pivot, because you'll be surprised what you discover midway. Like, dang, like that's actually not what I want to do. I want to do this. And it shouldn't be based on your skills. So I think I've been open minded about my career. I've been open to the people and organizations. And if it seemed like something in my role, it's been good. And now I'm in a position where I can be more focused, that I kind of know where I want to go. So every organization, every opportunity, I get to say yes or no because I want it to align to where I'm going and that vision get clearer and clearer. But you have to stop sleeping on yourself. Even if you don't know where it's going to go, take that leap of faith, bet on yourself. I said, I'm coming in 2021, all betting on myself, and I did just that. It might have been the wrong bet, but I did it. Now I know that didn't work, so that's all I have to say.
Set it off.
Well, I think, I think, Malana actually, like, she just nailed it. And then you said something when you were beginning, and then you also concluded with that same statement about, think at some point you're actually sleeping on yourself. And I think, being brutally honest about ourselves is actually something that some people don't really get to talk enough about. Sometimes we talk about, inclusion, and building communities to allow for more people to go out there and get things done. And I think, sometimes um, we can come collaboratively to build communities to enable and to empower people to become. But to the extent to which you can actually accomplish that is how much people are also willing to say, you know what, we are tired of mediocrity, we are tired of just being small, we're tired of being at this level, and we want to actually take life more serious and actually solve problems around us. Exactly. So and I'll just add something. So a lot has been happening recently in Nigeria, and it has not really, aside from people running out. I think I saw a recent statistic online that says, according to the U.S. Bureau of Statistics and Census, Nigerians are like the most educated immigrants in the United States, and they have the highest number of people of education attainment rates, and then in second place, we have South Koreans at 56%. We have the Chinese at 51%. We have British. So now we are seeing that there are a lot of persons actually who are, most people think, we are not really satisfied with what we are seeing on on our continent, rather, and let's run to places where there are opportunities, and a lot of them are actually really doing well. I think sometimes we have to also be honest with ourselves and say, you know what, yeah, things are tough, but can we also build the opportunities? Because someone said, sometimes when you don't see the door of opportunity to knock, build one. So, and I think we are seeing more people beginning to find communities that are empowering them, seeing problems, and then deciding to say, okay, you know what, let's solve this problem. Let's do this and let's get out there and do stuff. So over to Dennis. I just love Dennis also talk about, because I was going through his profile, and it was very, I was like, wow, this is I was just blown away. It was a mixture of experience, sheer dogged tenacity, and just resolve to actually be more. Like, he has I think I saw something about entrepreneurial journey from paparazzi to dark hive. So I just love to also talk about his own experience to see how we can also learn a thing or two from there, because there's a lot of nuggets hidden there.
Well, I appreciate that. But I want to just back up and say Marlena knocked it out the park. I don't know how I followed that effectively. That's why she wanted to go first, by the way. So she could take up all the good stuff and then leave me with nothing. But I'm gonna leave y'all, because we got 5 minutes. I got one more thing that I want to say. So in addition to what she said, and I think I agree wholeheartedly with everything she said, I will add, and this is for any industry, anybody who's looking to, better themselves, is understand why you're doing what you're doing. So know your why. That personal motivation for you. If you want to, better yourself, if you want to, move out of poverty, if you want to, be proud of the career that you have. I have a list, and it's a list that I've had since I was in college, and it changes every once in a while. But I review it on a regular basis, and it was called my emotional purpose list. And it's like 30 different things that are reasons why I do what I do at the end of the day. So some of my lists, I won't give you the whole list, but some of my lists are things like, I want to make my parents proud, right? I want to provide financially for my family. I want to make sure that my daughter, has security to, pursue the education that she wants. And I have a list of 30 different things. So when I get up in the morning and I don't feel like going to work, or I don't feel like studying, or I don't feel like, reading, I look at this list and I say, okay, this is why I'm doing it. This is what's going to keep me motivated, because a lot of times you'll get to a point, and hopefully everybody will get to this point, where money alone is not the motivator. That's not going to be enough to get you going to say, okay, well, I need to go and make money. That's not going to do it for you. You need those emotional reasons, and you need to be able to articulate exactly why it is that this is important to you. So that's the first thing I'll say. The second thing I'll say is IT is beautiful. The reason I like technology is because you can do so many different things. If you are into law, you mentioned legal, then you can be an IT lawyer, or you can study intellectual property law and work for a tech company. There's people who are more people persons than technical persons. So if you like to talk, you can get into sales or project management. If you are someone who is isolated and introverted and just want to be left alone, there's plenty of jobs for that too. If you're somebody who just likes the reading aspects of be a technical writer, or you can, there's so many things for so many different people. And finding your specialization, what it is that you feel comfortable with, what you feel strongly about, what resonates with you. Everybody doesn't have to be a programmer, a coder. You don't have to be a math genius, or somebody who has to learn something that's totally outside of the spectrum of what it is that's of interest to you. Find those things that are interesting, and then find a career in tech that can lead you to it, because there's so much money. There's so much money in this industry. I didn't realize how much money it is, but I don't think people talk about it enough. If you wanted to make a career doing something very, very, isolated and specific, you could for many, many years and make a bunch of money from some company that needs your specific skill set. So just kind of plan, like Marlene said, plan your grand, trajectory. Say, I want to get here, and I'm currently here. What does that look like? So make your plan, but then also, figure out, hey, if my plan goes awry, I'm flexible enough to take another path to see where that leads me. And I can always come back to, my path or my perceived path, but, be open and to options, because you never know. You never know where the path is going to lead you, and just be ready for it when it comes.
Well, I want to add one more thing before we end it. Monetize your experience too, especially in tech. Monetize it. Everything that you do, regardless of your career, every 6 months, build your portfolio, have something tangible. And while you're at it, monetize it on the side to teach other people else to build that financial wealth. But yeah, just want to add that.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dennis. Thank you so much. So I'll just do a summary of what you said so far. So Lyra talked about just being audacious, don't sleep on yourself, stand up, take hold of the steering and just get started. So she said the second thing she talked about was get started. And then from what she was saying, my summation was that clarity is not something you sit down and hope to get, but clarity is something that comes with the journey. So clarity comes with the journey. So you get started, and as your journey evolves, momentum is going to define and also decide clarity. So sometimes you don't have everything figured out. You might not really know you want to get started with a different product. But as you get started and as you begin to explore the journey and you just figure, oh, this is actually what I would love to do. The next thing she talked about was about being strategic. So once you find yourself in a place, and I would also add something that Dennis ended with by saying, be very flexible. Be flexible by not, at some point I remember people used to build with, it was mostly about visual, visual basic. And some people master technologies that are no more very relevant, because why? They are very rigid. when it comes to change. So observe exactly where the industry is going to. Look at where the journey is. You might have said, okay, this is what I want to do, but as you begin to explore, you also understand where opportunities are. So don't kill yourself or hang yourself in the neck by saying, if it's not this industry, I'm not going any other place. I remember there was a point, or there was a time when JavaScript used to be the king of the front end, but today nobody would have believed that JavaScript will also be a king at the back end too, with people writing in Node. So always being flexible, and then Melania talked about being very strategic. And then the next thing, she also talked about experience. And then she also added something by saying, what, monetize your experience. And there are a lot of ways you can look to get experience. Sometimes you don't need to wait until you get a paid job to get experience. You can actually get experience from volunteering. And I think community opens up that opportunity. So thank you so much. So I'll just allow them for any last words from you, Dennis, and any last words from you, Malina, and then we can just wrap it up. And then hopefully everybody who's going to watch this later is going to learn a lot and apply it to their personal lives, both regardless of your continent, whether you're in Africa or whether I think a lot of the lessons are very general.
Ladies first, any last words, Marlena?
I mean, I really like what he said. I was about to retype it. You said community leads to opportunity. I mean, I think that's true. And we tend to forget that. Like, start with your own, build on that. So, yeah.
And I would just like to say, thank you for having us. And as far as last words, just believe in yourself and your abilities. There's always going to be someone who's smarter than you, who is better than you. Imposter syndrome is something that we talk about a lot in tech. Don't let that discourage you, because there's definitely opportunity out there for you specifically if you want it. You just have to take it. There are opportunities and jobs, and at the end of the day, it all comes down to money, because that's why everybody works. So know what you want to do and figure out a way to get there, and you'll get there. Oh, you're on mute.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Dennis. Thank you so much, Malina, for honoring the invitation. Thank you so much. And for those that joined in, thank you so much. I think someone reached out to me from the Nigerian Association of Computing Students for National Open Universities. I think there were also people, a lot of persons also signed up, but I don't know, probably they didn't get notifications and all that. So what we just do is, we just send them the link to watch the session, and also hopefully all those who have also been attendees can also take this back to the community, because a lot of the things we've learned today are very, are general, and there are things that we can also apply to our individual communities too. The goal is to, just like what Greg ended with, it's not just about, and that was one of the things I thought about that before coming on the call. It's not just about always talking about inclusion or thinking about why is inclusion necessary or how do we just get included. That's not it. I think it's high time we just empower people more, because there's nothing wrong with more persons from our communities building startups, building companies that become Fortune 500, Fortune 50 companies. So it's mostly about empowering more people, and that's what BIT is doing, bringing and pulling in global resources together to empower people to become more of themselves and also empower them to become. Thank you so much, guys, for joining in, and thank you so much, Malina. Thank you so much, Dennis. And I look forward to just collaborating in more programs. So for our community that like this, like our first virtual event, and then from next month we are looking to having more physical meets. People have already reached out to them. They're like, BIT, I see what you guys are doing. I really want to be part of BIT. So we'll be having more events, but this was more like a kind of a Kickstarter to create publicity for our chapter here in Abuja, Nigeria. So thank you so much for being the brains and the faces that is making this possible.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, and have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
Bye.